Hello and welcome. I am Debbie Peterson of Getting to Clarity, and you are joining us for the Way Forward in Your Career show. And today, my friend and colleague Karyl is going to be sharing how to find your voice in a crowded space. So let me tell you a little bit about Karyl. Karyl, helping others is her passion. So she is from Michigan. She's a Michigan native, and she puts those around her at ease with her frank and fun communication style. I can vouch for that. With a business background in management, marketing, and sales, Karyl is a pro at stoking fire within her audiences and private clients. She is an advocate for confidence, and Karyl guides individuals through an exploration of what makes them unique while empowering, educating, and encouraging them through her image impact branding programs, a powerhouse combination of professional image and personal brand. I'm so happy to have her with me today. Karyl, thank you for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie. I really appreciate the invitation. And I was lucky enough to connect with Debbie through the National Speakers Association, and she came into Michigan and did just a great job working with a small group of our professionals. So thank you for that, Debbie. Totally appreciate that.
My pleasure. It was great to meet you there.
Yeah, it was really fun. And the whole idea of finding your voice in a crowded space came from the fact that we're all in these professions where there's million and one of us, it seems, right? And finding a way to differentiate yourself is a must do. It's a must do. And because my background is in both image consulting and then personal branding, marrying the two of those together felt really good to me as a professional, because it allows people to really start at the base, which is themselves, and then build from there. And finding your voice is an acronym. A voice is an acronym for being a visible, original, impactful, confident expert. And again, I really believe that we're all experts in our own field and to our own group of people that we're talking to. And I think that's the key. Debbie, I think you probably find this too. Like, you can't be everything to everybody. So choose who you want to talk to and the people that will view you as an expert because they truly need what you are, what you have to offer. And that really starts with your visible credibility, which is, the V in voice, right? Your visible credibility, how you show up. You are a billboard for your company, for your profession. And what you put out there is what people are going to, or how people are going to interpret who you are, and by default, what your company is all about. And that is a huge starting point. And I think a lot of people tend to miss that. And again, going back to what you said earlier, Debbie, is that, I've married image and personal branding together, because without that initial step, without that visible credibility piece, you really aren't heard. This all boils down to first impressions. You walk into a room or you walk onto a stage when you're speaking, and if you can't get their attention right away, they're off to the races with somebody else.
And it happens just like that. It is. And even in today's business casual environment. So if we go back to the days where we were in the work environment, what you say matters. What you pull out of the closet says something about you, who you are, where you want to go, what kind of person you are to other people, like you said, but it also says something to ourselves, about ourselves.
Right.
So it's really, it's a two-way street, and it, confidence is that mindset. It's in the head, and your personal brand, your visibility, what it is that you put on affects that too. So
absolutely.
So interesting.
When I work with one-on-one clients, I literally start in their closet and what they are putting on, which again that's kind of that differentiating piece. But if you've got all this education, you've got all this expertise and knowledge in your brain, but if you aren't showing what you're all about, people aren't taking the time to find that out. Like, we don't wear a resume on our chest, we don't come with a big billboard on us. The way that we have to grab that attention is by how, what we're choosing to wear, our hairstyles, our makeup, our accessories, For gentlemen, maybe it's, down to shoes. I mean, all these little things play into the big picture. And really, like you said, it's grabbing that attention, and there are different studies that say 3 seconds, 7 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you want to say.
It's still really quick.
It's really quick. And it is, it's the blink of an eye. So getting that visible credibility piece really as a foundation of the rest of your brand is huge. And here's the thing too, is that our image and our personal brand is not what we think of ourselves. It's what everybody else thinks of us, right? And that's where perception comes into play. Just because I think that I present myself one way does not mean that it's resonating with other people. And you really have to keep that in a balance and check. And like I said earlier, you can't be everything to everybody. So you have got to know who your audience is, and then take stock in whether that's, like I said, resonating or not resonating. And if it's not resonating, you have two choices. Either one, you can make adjustments so that you are better understood by that group of people, or two, you can decide it's not worth it, and you can decide that your audience is somewhere else. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with shifting either way. It has to be a personal
and audience, internal or external, dependent on your goals, what it is that you want for your business or your career. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then and finding your voice. Yes, it starts with a visible credibility, but the other thing that you need to look at is how do you use your original self, and how do you use opportunities to, again, kind of massage that message and decide where you want to be and how you want to be heard. We all are very unique. Again, you can have the same education as, the person next to you, and you might even have the same work experience, but all the other things that you go through with your family life and how you grew up, and, external things that you've learned, not business wise, but other things, all shape us.
Absolutely.
And how you decide to utilize that. I mean, my path is a very windy path. I didn't take the straight and narrow path that a lot of people took. And that's what makes me unique in how I look at things and how I can offer help. And you have to be cognizant of that. Mm-hmm. And then really look at the opportunities too that have passed you by, and why did they pass you by, and taking stock in that and thinking, oh, wow, did that pass me by because it was needed? Or did it pass me by because I wasn't ready to step up to the challenge? And that's that confidence piece. And really, just kind of that digging in. I know, Debbie, when you and I met, you did this great exercise. It was almost like an either or. And it was fascinating. And I think that's really helpful when people are trying to dial into what they want to do. What is the most important thing to you?
So this is on to the second point. Original and opportunity. So that essence of authenticity and what that allows you to bring to the table, because not everybody has the same fingerprint, so to speak. So, you bring, what are the things that make you unique? And then I love what you said about analyzing opportunities, because especially when things don't work out, you need to figure out what the lesson is there. Maybe on some level you knew it wasn't a good fit. And so maybe even at some level, you'll realize in hindsight, I didn't play full out. I didn't really, I said I went for it, but I can see now I really didn't.
Exactly.
And you learn something from that, and you refine it. Okay, if that wasn't a fit, then figuring out what is. If I didn't do what I needed to do, then what do I need to do the next time? So
that's exactly right. And by the same token too, Debbie, like, it's okay to say no. It is okay for you to say, I didn't grab onto that opportunity because it was not the right fit. And sometimes we grab onto an opportunity and it's not the right fit, and we go for it anyway. Mm-hmm. And again, the lesson learned is that probably is not for me going forward, so.
Well, I know from a keynoting perspective, same thing. I got very clear that women and emerging leaders were my sweet spot. Those were the people that I had the most impact or opportunity to impact. That, if they wanted customer service, it wasn't me. If they wanted, professional presence, it wasn't me. Refer them to somebody else. So not trying to be everything, but be you and bring all of you to the table.
Right. And I think that's you just touched on a spot that I think is so important. And that's, that networking piece where we can find out who else does things really well, because when we can refer somebody when it's not our expertise and we can refer them to somebody who's great, that makes our expertise look even higher, which is, what we're going to talk about here in the next 3 steps. But, and then your instant message, that's all about being impactful. And again, if you
Okay, step
have,
3,
yeah,
the
yeah,
I in voice. Okay.
yeah.
Instant
So imagine this, you walk into a room or you walk onto the stage and you walk back off and you've only been there for, 7 seconds. What is it that you are hoping that they remember about you? That's your instant message. Are you hoping that they say, wow, she was so creative, or wow, she's so nice, or he's really kind? What are the words that you are hoping that they say about you? And again, this is that perception thing. So when you find out what those words are, you dial down to determine what you want to be known for. And then you're finding out that you're really not known for that. That's when you know you need to make adjustments. By the same token, if you want to be known for something, like if I wanted to be known for being very sweet and very kind, I would not be showing up in a black leather jacket. I mean, I hope people think I'm nice and kind, but that is not the primary thing that I think that I need to show for my audience. It's just not, and that's okay. And learning how to, once you attach yourself to those words, those adjectives to describe you, those, that your instant message, you learn how to do that with again, with your clothing, with your accessories. I have right here, this is just a quick example of how quickly you can change things. I mean, you could put on a pair of pearls and have one adjective assigned to you, or you could put on something really funky and have them think something else. It's a very quick and subtle change. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a jacket. If I put on your beautiful blue, aqua blue, my message changes from what I'm wearing. And it's really interesting. But that instant message is something that you really need to think about. How do you want to be perceived? How do you want people to think about you? And then you're going to have to create your billboard, which is you, to clue them into that, to clue them in. So that's your instant message. And
I
again,
love that. I love that.
Very closely to visible credibility. And then we've got the charisma and the confidence and the credibility piece. And charisma and credibility, when you put those two together, that's really when you get that confidence. So again, charisma is something that we all have internally, and some people's charisma is very quiet and gentle. Think about Martin Luther King. I mean, what a beautiful soul. He wasn't loud. He was more internal, but his charisma showed everywhere. And then you think of somebody like, I don't know who's loud and boisterous and over, like, fun. I mean, even, what I'm trying to think of, she's
Joan Rivers comes to mind. She was always over the top, and there's just a lot of big personalities.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of big personalities, and you don't have to be a big personality to have charisma. Mm-hmm. Everybody has it. It's just figuring out what that is. When you are your best self and you make people feel a certain way that you want them to feel, that's that charisma, right? And learning what that is and then bringing it to the forefront. And then the credibility piece is super important. Credibility is, what's on your social media? When I Google you, what am I going to find? Did you write a book? Are you talking about what you believe? Are you making videos about are you doing interviews? Those are all credibility pieces. What happens a lot of times is that people think, oh, I don't need that. People should just know. If they Google me and they don't find anything, that's a good thing. And unfortunately, in this time and day, really the opposite is true. If they Google you and they don't find anything, they start really making up their own story about who you are and what you're all about. And taking charge of that credibility piece will get you, I think, better results the way that you are hoping to get them. Does that make sense?
It does. And, sharing your beliefs, the things that are aligned with your beliefs, charities, initiatives that matter. Mm-hmm. But even from a careerist standpoint, it can be promoting, skills training that you've gone to. It can be promoting the work that you do within the organization. It can be promoting, philanthropy initiatives that are important to you, networking events, things that show you out doing, what it is that's part of the role that you have, and staying visible and building that credibility, especially when you're seeking to up level.
Yeah. And what's happening now too is that the first thing people are doing is, like I said, they're Googling you, right? And more you'll see LinkedIn coming up as the first or second level of what we find on Google, which means that LinkedIn is a really important tool that you can tap into, but you again have to make sure that you're utilizing it, that things are done correctly, and that you are showing what you're all about. Don't be afraid to step into your beliefs and your expertise. That's what this is all about, right? So when you build that credibility and you add that charisma, which is, that uniqueness that you bring to the table, and you talk about past opportunities or current opportunities or opportunities in the, or you're looking for opportunities, all these things come together. And then they look at what they find online, or they look at you in person and they think, wow, she or he is this, that. Do you see how this is all coming together? That's your voice, and it leads up to the fact that you are an expert. You are somebody that can help them get to their next level. You're the answer to the problem. You're not the problem itself. And that's part of, putting yourself together in a really intentional way too, because sometimes people, like I said earlier, they forget that step, and somebody will look at them and say, well, I don't have time because she or he is going to be too much for me to handle. They're just too much. You want to be seen as that person. You want to be seen as the one that they remember. One of the things that
In a good way.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing her to remember for all the right reasons.
Right.
Exactly. One of the things that I say too is that, as a billboard for your company, there are 3 things that you want to happen. Number 1, you want to capture their attention right away so that they ask you or invite you to the next step, whether that's an interview or the next sales call or whatever the case may be. The second thing, let's say that's just not in the cards, but maybe the second thing is that even if they don't have the problem that you solve right now, are they remembering you next week, next month, next year, 2 years from now? Are they remembering you and coming back to you? If you're having that happen to you, that's a great thing. And then the third thing is that you might be networking or meeting somebody that is never going to have the problem that you solve, which is cool. But are they remembering you and recommending and referring you to somebody that they know that does have your problem? And that feels really good. So, this whole networking piece and getting seen, and again, showing your credibility and your expertise, and having people understand you for who you are at a glance is huge. It's a huge piece of the ultimate puzzle. And, if you get it right, you'll see things open up for you, or even better yet, you'll be so confident in what you have to offer, you go and search, or you start creating things that match what you want to do. And that is really exciting to see, and it's exciting to have happen.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, from a career standpoint, one of the biggest jobs I ever had came directly as a result of networking. I actually started out with one person that I knew, and I said, hey, I'm thinking of making a shift. I don't know what yet. And I'd love your input about what you think might be a fit for me. And we just had a conversation. At the end of the conversation, I asked them, who else should I talk to? So it wasn't about asking for a job, but it was just about, I'm putting myself out there. And when you network like that, the more people who know what it is that you're looking to do, the more advocates you have out there, because you just never know when it's going to be, hey, I just talked to this gal and you need to meet her, right? And you're introducing your connections now. And I'll tell you what, I interviewed for a job. I wasn't a fit. They hired somebody else, but they said, stay in touch. And I did. And I'll tell you what, the next job that came up, they came looking for me. They came looking for me. They didn't even advertise it. I didn't have to apply. We had a conversation and I got the job. So absolutely.
And I love what you just said too, is, stay in touch, and you did.
Networking is not a one and done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things going on too. Like, you need to listen to what's not being said when it comes to opportunities, and you have to listen to what is being said, and follow through is so incredibly important. And that's part of your image too. I will tell you, if somebody dangles a carrot in front of you and you don't follow through with it, and that was kind of their test for you, that says a lot about you. It says a lot about you. All these little things, image is about appearance, behavior, communication, and your digital presence. Well, behavior and communication go hand in hand. And, that's one of those things where if somebody asks you to do something, you don't follow through with it, that's what they remember, rather than the things that you did right 100 times. It's the one thing that you really screwed up on that they may remember. Now you have a chance to resurrect yourself by saying, hey, my bad, let me fix it, that type of thing. But you do have to be really cognizant. And when somebody dangles a carrot, like you just said, and said, keep in touch, and you blow it off, you're missing an opportunity. Yes. But if you send them an email or you give them a call every once in a while, great things happen. Great things happen.
And it did.
It's fascinating to watch how it all plays out. It really is. It really is. Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to say too is that, stepping up to opportunities when you're not prepared can be gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching. And I tell a story, especially when I do my presentations, about a time where I'm a hockey mom, right? So, we did a lot of traveling to Chicago, and there was a trip that I wanted to go on. It was very, very last minute. And this was years ago. I had started my image consulting business, but I wasn't fully into it yet. But anyway, regardless, I literally threw on old sweatpants, washed my face, put my hair in a ponytail, it was long, and drove off to Chicago. And I thought, no one's going to see me. And the whole time I was driving there, I felt awful, thought, oh my gosh, I look like I just rolled out of bed, which I kind of did. And because I hadn't thought the whole trip through, I brought enough clothes for the game the next day and then to drive home, and that was it. Well, in my infinite wisdom, I got to the hotel, and I immediately put on Facebook, hey, I'm at such and such hotel in Chicago. And I got a message back right away. Oh, I'm here too. Well, it ended up being a message from somebody who I knew from hockey, but I didn't know really well. But I did know that she was somebody I really wanted to talk to about my business. I mean, I really wanted to talk to her about my business. And now I'm panicked. I'm absolutely panicked because here I am looking like I rolled out of bed, because I did. And I'm going to talk about my image consulting business.
Oh,
awful.
Yep.
It was awful. And I mean, she came down, we had some wine and we chatted, but I never, ever brought up my business. And that was, a good handful of years ago, but that still stays with me. And I think to myself, did I need to be dressed up? No, I didn't need to be dressed up. But as an entrepreneur, could I have been more prepared? Could I have had on a pair of sweatpants that fit me properly, that weren't from Costco, I don't know, at that time, probably 15 years ago, when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 20. Could I have, just because it would have made me feel better, could I have thrown on some mascara and a little blush, and I would have felt better? Yeah, I could have done all these little tiny things that weren't major. They were just a little bit more intentional. Again, I'm not talking about dressing up. I'm just talking about taking a little bit more pride in what I was doing for that day, and being able, again, as an entrepreneur, you don't know where your next client is coming from. Being confident in the way that I was presenting myself, so I could have had this conversation. It would have been so simple. And because I didn't take 5 extra minutes, I don't know what I lost in that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as an entrepreneur, as a careerist, I mean, when you walk outside the door, you just don't know who it is that you're going to run into. Even on a Zoom meeting or some sort of virtual meeting, you don't know who's going to be there. And, it's not about being dressed to the nines, but it is about, considering that is this appropriate for the goals that I have, either for my business or my career? Am I representing myself the way that I should? Yeah, no, that's a great story. And believe me, I have been there, because, sure enough, you're like, I'm not going to know anybody. You will. You'll run into somebody. So
that's true. That was the kiss of death. I won't know anybody. And then there they are. Right. Yeah, on the virtual side of things too, when COVID hit, that was something that I saw right away. I've been using Zoom, and many people have, but there were a whole bunch of people that just didn't have that experience. And what I ended up doing was doing a couple complimentary sessions about I called it virtual meeting mayhem, and teaching people 5 quick steps to better create an impact online, because it was a mess, people getting up and moving and
Oh
eating their
yeah.
lunch, and we're looking at their ceiling, or we're looking at their
Or
floor.
up
And
your
again,
nose, or
yeah, yeah, yeah. The general rule I always say is, if you won't do it in a face-to-face meeting, then please don't do it online.
Right.
But
Well, and that reflects on your expertise, right?
yeah, that's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And people just think, well, why did they make that decision? Like, that was a really bad decision for them to make. What other bad decisions do they make? I
Yeah.
don't want to work with them now because they don't even know enough to do this. And that can be really harmful, but it's true.
So what
It's
is
true.
your advice around expertise or being an expert from a
Again,
business and a career standpoint?
yeah, one of the things that I think is a really great exercise to do is to really dial back and think about the things that make you you, uniquely you, not you as a mom, not you as a parent, or if I just said that, not you as a mom, not you as a wife, not you as a friend, but you as a person. And I'll tell you, when I switched careers, that was an exercise that I did that felt really good to me, because I realized what makes me tick, and what I like, what I don't like, what I cherish, what I don't have to have in my life, and really dialing into that, you'll start discovering things about yourself that are unique and that make you feel good. And then, because of the fact that you can now pair that with other things, you become an expert in what you have to offer. And again, your expertise doesn't have to be an expertise for everybody. It's an expertise for a certain group of people. You
Right.
mentioned women and emerging leaders. That is
What's your
kind of my
superpower?
sweet spot too.
What is it that's easy for you that you bring to the table? For me, it's
Yeah.
clarity. I just, I hear things and I can get clear on steps and how it
Yes.
needs to be laid out. And, other people, it's numbers. It's making
Yeah.
sense of numbers. It's
Yeah.
being able to write in a way that tells a story.
Hmm.
And even in a business standpoint, that is so important. So
Yeah.
understanding, and you can get that from yourself doing a self-assessment. You can get it from
Right.
others, your colleagues,
Yeah.
your coworkers, your family. What do you think I'm good at? Because you may be
Hmm.
surprised by by
Yeah.
what you hear.
And that's an exercise that I do with my private clients, is that we do, I call it a modified 360, where I literally am calling and having just quick 15-minute conversations with people around them. Because again, we think that we're an expert over here, or this is what we have to offer, and we may find some really great things that other people are already seeing in us, and we can roll that in.
Oh
And
yeah.
it
And that's
yeah, it's really
valuable,
exciting.
valuable
Yeah, it's super
information.
valuable. Yeah.
Oh, Karyl,
Yeah.
this has been wonderful. So let's
Oh,
see. For voice, we
yeah.
have visible, we have original, impactful, credible, and expert or expertise for the
Yes.
voice acronym.
Yep.
So I thank you so much for sharing all of this. And if people are going to want more, so where do they find you? How can they
Okay.
hook up with you, Karyl?
Well, the easiest way to find me really is LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn, and then it's Karyl, Karyl Eckerle, Eckerle, or my website is theimageimpactgroup.com. And if anybody wants more information on the voice and finding your voice in a crowded space, I do now have a little tiny tip book.
Yes, ma'am. I saw that. That's terrific.
Yeah. So this tip book has 49 tips that really, you know, go down this acronym and give you some really easy, tangible, straightforward things that you can do now to boost up your image impact. And that's really what it's all about, getting clarity like you talked about, and having a clear, consistent, confident message across all platforms. So whether in
Okay,
person or
great.
online, you're there.
Finding your voice in a crowded space, and it is crowded. So thank you,
Yeah.
Karyl, so much for being here today. I really appreciate. And I'm Debbie Peterson of Getting to Clarity, and I work to advance women and emerging leaders to the next level or perhaps their next chapter in their career or business. So thank you for being here today. And until
Thank
next time,
you.
here is wishing you the clarity you deserve. Have a great day. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Bye-bye.